Get ready. All right. Hey everybody, it's Dan. Welcome back to From the Asylum. Today we have a very special episode. Going to walk through a sealed deck construction, but not just any sealed deck construction. Maybe you guys have heard about this little set called Modern Masters. Maybe about this thing called Grand Prix Las Vegas. Well, I'm going to walk you through a sealed deck construction from a few random packs from Modern Masters, and hopefully it'll help you prepare for Grand Prix Vegas. If you're one of the, 700 million people going to this event, that isn't me. All right, so let's get started. I got 6 packs laid out here, and if you notice, they're all sleeved up because a friend of the store, Brian Clymer, bought a box of Modern Masters, and then out of the kindness of his heart, instead of putting all the cards into his binder, he sleeved them all up so that we can play it like a cube. We can reuse the packs over and over like this for drafts or sealed deck like this or whatnot. So, okay, let's go ahead and walk through these packs real quick. We'll go and separate stuff into commons, uncommons, and rares. Probably actually do it by color instead of that. That's how I typically like to build my sealed decks. Is another bit of relevant information here. This is practice in general for Limited, which is good since several of us will be going to Grand Prix Houston this coming weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun. Not nearly as well. I don't know if we can say it's not as powerful as this set because this set's pretty good. But so's Dragon's Maze block, or RTR block, I suppose. Okay, so out of our first pack, what we got? We have a little bit of ramp in Paradise Mantle, which is cool. We have a hate card for one of the archetypes in the format in Kataki, War's Wage. He's also foil, which is value. Not a lot of blue or black. Fairy Macabre's okay, not great. Aaron Ephemeron is insane though. This card is very, very good. It's a reason to play blue if you have multiples. In green, which I think may be our strongest color out of this pack. I don't know, maybe white. The green's probably our strongest color here. Is we have Tooth and Nail, which is expensive, but if you play a ramp deck, you can get it online and grab a couple of fatties. Tromp the Domains, which is nuts. It's the domain version of Overrun. And it turns out Overrun's a real good card in Limited. Greater Moss Dog, 3/3 for 4 with Dredge. Dude just keeps coming back. And then Hanakami, meh. You kind of need to be in the right deck to make Hanakami work. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the next pack and see what it adds. Oh, the red cards, we got a Giant Growth, which is sweet. A Crushed Underfoot, which is very good in the Giants deck, but may not always be useful when we're playing sealed instead of draft. And then Grape Shot, which is a pretty good removal spell if you're in the Storm deck. Just Aether Spellbomb is worth noting as Auriok Salvators is a card in this format. So Auriok Salvators will just let you rebuy this every turn, bouncing one of their creatures every time you want to do anything. So how about the next pack? Well, we got Otherworldly Journey, a couple red cards, another black card, Giants, and blue artifact this time. 2 Giant Growths in this pool. Oh man, the ramp's coming together. This might be a Tooth and Nail deck. Another Kataki. Oh dip. Well, Kataki's mean. He'll stop that dirty artifacts deck. Okay, so left to right here, my left to right. So Kadama's Reach and Search for Tomorrow allow us to play a ramp deck. They also allow us to play domain spells, since they can tutor up other colors of mana that may not be the primary focus of the deck. So Tromp the Domains is looking better and better the more we open. Imperiosaur, one of the primary reasons to be in green. This card is so good. A 5-mana 4/4. All you got to do is play basic lands to make him work. A Search for Tomorrow lets you ramp into him on turn 3. Yeah, that's pretty good, I'll say. As far as red, we finally got a removal spell here. A couple of them in different colors. Sudden Shock's very good. Tar Pitcher's really good if you have the Goblins deck. But I don't know if we can really do that. So, as I talked about the Grape Shot being very good as a removal spell in the Storm deck. Well, we got a Rift Watcher, or Rift Elemental. Rift Elemental is good in that Storm deck for making sure that you have a clock and that your spells all go off at the same time, which is pretty important for the Storm mechanic. Speaking of Storm and Suspend cards, we have a Thesis here, which is probably, it's super slow, obviously, as you can suspend it for 5 for Doomblade mana. But it is super powerful. It destroys any creature, and then the creature's controller loses life equal to its power and toughness combined. That's pretty sweet. So outside that, the only other creature we got was a Face Vaulter, which again is very good in the Goblins deck. So with the Mog War Marshal we got, we actually kind of have a bit of a makings of a red-black Goblins deck, but probably not going to be enough. This guy doesn't go here. So we do have an Ethereum Sculptor for the Artifacts deck, as well as an Etched Oracle, and those are pretty sweet. So I don't know. We might have a few or enough artifacts once we get done with this. But again, it's hard. It's kind of hard to build the archetypes, as seeing as how we have 6 packs that don't necessarily all have enough cards for any one archetype. Let's go ahead and lay out our next pack. Some more blue, another Otherworldly Journey. Yeah, no, white from that last pack. So we got another Worldly Journey out of that last pack, and a Hillcomber Giant, and another Kataki. So we're set against artifacts. Those are not going to be bugging us. Let's see. Ooh, we got some better black cards this time. With a Stinkweed Imp, already a Warned Weirding, Anti-Snitch. Oh boy, our first real legitimate bomb. Whew, add a card Valkyrie. That is a saucy piece of work right there. That is one heck of a magic card. So this we can put in either one of these camps. I guess we'll just put it in multicolor over here. Mirror Retriever, and then another Kadama's Reach for ramp. Looking like we might be able to ramp into an Atakar Valkyrie. So we don't really have that many solid creatures in white, though, is our only problem thus far. Saltfield Recluse is pretty good. Lets you stall. But it may not matter. It may not matter how many creatures we have as long as we have that Atakar Valkyrie. We got another Mog War Marshal. We got another Goblin. We got a couple of Blight Speakers if we can play some Rebels. So there are a couple of really good Rebel cards if we want to play white-black. And now we have a couple of removal spells since we opened this Warren Weirding. It's basically the Devour Flesh of this format. So this isn't looking terrible. Black stepped up a lot in that pack. Red got another removal spell in the form of Rift Bolt. It also got, that was about it actually. I think it got Rift Bolt and a Mog War Marshal. Blue, not looking very strong. We have a Vidalca Dismisser, which is good. A Fairy Mechanist, which is good in the Artifacts deck. But again, I don't think we really have enough for that. So 3 packs in, let's see what else we can get out of this. See if we can find enough white playables to make sure that we're running this Atakar Valkyrie. And there's one step in the right direction to make that white deck playable. Sin's Enlistment is a very, very good card. So a couple of blue cards now. Giants. Another removal spell. I guess we put that here. Mind Funeral. And Una. Una's a legitimate bomb as well. She can mill them out pretty quickly, but she's also, a 6-mana 5/5 flyer that generates tokens. So she's a pretty good card just to play on her own. If we can get away with the mana, we may be able to play a white-black deck with both Atakar Valkyrie and Una in it. We'll find out. So we got an Amro Scout, which is very good because it tutors up Rebel cards. So the Amro Scouts and the Blight Speakers can tutor up one another. That's about it for Rebels that we have right now. I think we got Saltfield Recluse is a Rebel, yeah. So we can tutor him up too. This isn't, no, that's the Sharkane. Okay, so, alright, well we didn't get a whole lot of red there. We got a Blind Spot Giant. That's really it. We got some more Mirror Retrievers so we can fetch back more artifacts when those die. Let's see. The Amber Scout, the Sin's Enlistment, both good cards. More ramp in another Kadama's Reach. We also got a Rift Sweeper for suspending cool spells like Arthesis. Also a Penumbra Spider. The other insane 4-drop in green. Another reason to be green is Penumbra Spider. It's a 2/4 that you have to kill twice. Like, your giant spider's really, really good when it dies and turns into another giant spider. So Penumbra Spider's pretty sweet. Alright, not a whole lot to talk about in that pack. White got a little better. Blue got a little better. Actually, we can stop and talk about the blue real quick. So we did get a Changeling, which is very good in several strategies. A solid counterspell in Logic Knot if we have enough removal or we can trade off enough creatures. And then we have a Spellstutter Sprite, which is good in a Fairies deck, which we don't really have that many of. I mean, the Moth does Changeling's one. That's pretty good. curving Moth Dust Changeling into counter your 2-drop with Spell Stutter Sprite is pretty solid, actually. Alright, so let's see. A couple of things in blue here. Some mana fixing. That's pretty good. Erratic Mutation. Sanctum Gargoyle. More creatures. See, the green's very good, but it doesn't have a lot of creatures right now. That's kind of a problem for green decks, as you can imagine. Murderous Redcap. That guy's removal and a body. That's very good. More sweet artifacts. Another cool land. Some witches. Another Recluse and a Skyreach Manta, which is a very good card if we're playing any sort of domain deck. If you're doing it right, it's a 4 or 5/5 flyer for 5, which is pretty sweet. Then with the ramp, you're playing that on turn 4-ish. What do we get out of that one? We got several more blue cards out of that. Peer Through Depths to help us fix our draws. Erratic Mutation, which can act as either a removal spell or a pump spell, which is nice. We got another Rift Bolt and a Tribal Flames. So the red removal is flowing in this pool, and that's really good. And that includes the Murderous Redcap. So he can count as both mono black or mono red removal, which is nice. Green didn't really get a whole lot. We got a Walker of the Grove. That's about it. I mean, he's a nice fatty to fetch with like Tooth and Nail. But besides that, I wouldn't worry about it. Although, to be fair, Tooth and Nail is a tutor for our Adakar Valkyrie, which is something we do need to remember and consider if we can get enough white and green creatures together. So let's go ahead and crack this last pack and go ahead and lay it out. Another solid green card to start off with in the Ancient. More removal for red. Ooh, a Bone Splitter. That's a good card. I like that one. Another solid creature for green. Veteran Armor. He's a man. A couple of good blue spells. Another Face Vaulter. Another giant guy. Another land. That's pretty good. Fixing. More fixing. Oh boy. Here we go. Lightning Helix. That's a saucy spell. And then we got a Narcomoeba, which is meh. And then a Glenolindra Archmage, which is a very good blue card. And then we got Death Denied. A foil Death Denied here in black, which can really swing a game. That card's very, very good if you have enough mana to just, I don't know. Oh, you killed a whole bunch of my guys, or I blocked a whole bunch last turn and traded everything off. Well, it's all back in my hand now, and I'm going to play it over the next few turns. Okay, so this is the whole pool laid out in front of us here. So the things that I'm immediately drawn to really focus on are the red removal, the couple of balmy white cards that we have in Sin's Enlistment and Adakar Valkyrie, and then the green ramp. The green ramp is really important because you can just go bigger faster than your opponents. Not exactly sure what the best way to do these things is. We have like 3 black removal spells. We don't have any white removal, which is important. If we play green, and this is something I'm not sure exactly how feasible it is, but we have triple Kadama's Reach in this deck. So we actually might be able to splash Adakar Valkyrie in this deck if we play something like green-red. Let's see. Before we decide on anything, let's go ahead and lay out a couple of the less, quote-unquote, less good options and see what they look like. So let's look and see exactly how playable our blue is first, as that's one that I haven't really talked about a whole lot. Let's go ahead and move these things over here. Get our lands out. Dakmor Salvage isn't really fixing, but the other 3 are, and that's pretty good, especially if we're in red for Vivid Crag. The Bone Splitter is something we'll definitely play. As far as his artifacts, the Paradise Mantle, if we feel like we need more ramp, we can play. I'll say that, like, these are really that great. Etched Oracle is okay. We can remove some counters to draw some cards. That's pretty sweet. If we end up playing any kind of even 3 or 4 color deck. So the red is very good. Let's go ahead and leave that aside. The green is very good. Let's leave that aside for now. Let's lay out our black playables and see exactly what we got here. Or our blue playables and see exactly what we got. So Echoing Truth is a good tempo spell. Perilous Research draws cards. That's a square. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. So Erratic Mutation, I'm not exactly sure how playable it is. but we'll lay it out for now. Peer through the depths lets us smooth our draws. Reach through the mists. It can be decent, I think, but I'm not sure. Logic Knot, if we play a bunch of card draw spells, that can typically be a counter spell for 4 or 5. So creatures, it's not looking great. Couple dismissers, a mechanist, sculptor, and yeah, there's not a whole lot here. The Vidalcan dismissers are okay. Yeah, so it's just a 2/2 for 6 that kind of Time Walk-esque effect, putting a creature on top of their deck. I'd much rather that be like a 5 mana instant speed spell than a 6 mana 2/2, but what are you going to do? The Narcomoeba is not that good. The Moth Dust Changeling isn't that good. The Ethereum Sculptor is sweet in an artifact deck, but I don't really think that's where we want to be. And the Aaron Ephemeron is pretty good. But what you really need for the blue deck are Aether Snipes and Mole Drifters. If you don't have either of those cards in abundance, then the blue deck I don't think is where you want to be. You have to be refilling your hand with the Mole Drifters, and the Aether Snipes provide you with early tempo as well as big swings late game when you actually get to cast them from your hand. So let's go ahead and scrap blue. Surprise, surprise, me not wanting to play blue. But here, I actually don't think it's worth it. If you feel otherwise about any of the colors, especially blue, make sure to let me know in the comments. I'm more than willing to listen to other opinions on this. Let's go ahead and lay out the black. We have some really solid, saucy removal spells here. Death Denied's okay. How about the creatures? What do the creatures look like? This is going to be the important part. The removal's okay, but unless we want to be playing, like a control deck, we have to have creatures. Triple Blight Speaker in this pool. Yeah, that's okay, I guess. That's good for a control deck, but I don't know exactly how good that is in general. So with the Blight Speakers, they can tutor themselves up in the mid-game. You can just kind of sit with them on the table. They get outclassed by everything else, but they're unblockable. They're an unblockable 1/1, and you can kill all of their creatures while just pinging them to death through whatever board stall they might have created. Not really enough spells, I don't think, to play the Dream Spoiler Witches. They're very good. They're removal in and of themselves, but it's kind of like the rich get richer kind of removal, whereas they work much better as removal when you have lots more removal, but that's not a bad problem to have. The Thysis is good, the Warren Weirding's good, the Drag Down's good, the Death Denied is okay, but these creatures are all pretty mediocre. The Face Vaulters don't actually work without a lot of goblins. Anti-Snitch is okay, not fantastic. The Fairy Macabre is the same boat, is a 2/2 flyer for 3, so it's vanilla with some text. The Stinkweed Imp's very good. He's a very good defensive card. The black is probably splashed at best for some removal, like a drag down in a domain deck.
Does Una sway you any?
Huh? For black? Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Between blue and black, that's a good question. So in blue, I guess we also have Plume Veil, and that's a very good card. Gotcha. But you have to be doing something else to make a 4/4 defender with flying work. And Una is very good. Let's go ahead and let's look at where that curve is. So 6. What else we got here? Those Face Vaulters. This is probably just not worth playing the Face Vaulters. The creatures in this deck are pretty mediocre. And the fact that we can get Una back with Death Denied, that's pretty solid. That's always fun. It's like, you dealt with my bomb rare. Well, do it again. But she's not. I don't think she's worth playing a whole color for, and you basically have to do that because she's triple blue, triple black, or a mix. So if you're not playing both of those colors, you have to be heavy into one or the other. And I don't think either one of these colors are worth going into just for her. Black would be the color that I would want to go into if I had to, but I don't think we have to. I think we have enough removal in red and playables in other colors that we can just dodge this. Again, we can splash Thysis and Drag Down. Thysis with Suspend is just 1 black, so it's totally a splashable card. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll go ahead and leave Una with the mono black cards here, and we can come back to that if we need to. But I think her casting cost is going to be a little too restrictive for us. Alright, so moment of truth here. Let's lay out these red cards and see exactly what we got. So Rift Bolt, after playing this format a little bit, I've found that most of the time you're just casting it for 3 to get things out of the way. But we can leave those in 1 just to see how the curve looks. Grape Shot's probably not going to make the deck. Double Giant Growth might though. Giant Growth's it's a good magic card. Let's see. So this guy with Echo, lols. I've got here Blind Spot Giant's good. Tar Pitcher's okay. Tar Pitcher's actually pretty good with Mob War Marshal. And Rift Element. So we got a couple of Giants. Again, the creatures are pretty mediocre in this pool. The Hammerheim Deadeye is fine. It destroys a creature with flying when it comes into play. That's very good. Seeing as how we likely won't have too many of those ourselves, we can really just play him whenever we want, kind of as a removal spell. And then, if we don't have the 6 to pay the Echo, that's all he was. He could block for a turn, I suppose. Thundering Giant's a solid finisher in a red deck with lots of removal, which we kind of have. It was a little bit less than I thought. So double Rift Bolt, Tribal Flame, Sudden Shock, like those are pretty good spells to have. That's pretty solid removal. But again, those are all splashable. It's 4 red cards, but we can totally splash those if we need to in a different deck. The Grape Shot's probably not going to work. We don't have a whole lot of Suspend here. I don't think there's a ton of Suspend in the green either. There's a few. And just 6 creatures. The Rift Elemental's pretty mediocre. Without having, I don't know, probably like 8 Giants in your deck, the Blind Spot Giant's not really very good. He's never going to attack or block. And if you don't have something like the Great Heart Kithkin to pump with the Blind Spot Giant, he's really not worth playing. So that basically leaves us with, without that many Giants, Crush Underfoot's not really playable. Leaves us like these as actual playables, but not really Grape Shot. So that's not a ton of red cards. So maybe we do end up being just good old green-white. But I don't know. The red wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. So we have a ton of spells in our green. Would have preferred a few more creatures, but this looks like a deck that can actually ramp into Tooth and Nail and trump the domains. So that's not a bad thing. Now the Search for Tomorrow is you're always really suspending for 1 unless you have nothing else to do on turn 3. So we got one of those. We got some 4-drops. We got a 2-drop, more 4-drops. Kind of a 1-drop in Hanakami. We'll call it a 5-drop for this guy, but we can Tooth and Nail him. Another 2 and a 5. So these creatures are good in this deck, but we kind of have some holes. I don't think we really need the basic land cycling on Sylvan Bounty, and outside that, 6 mana for 8 life is not good enough, so probably going to skip out on that. Triple Kadama's Reach may or may not be too many. I mean, we're playing the foil one for value, but we might only really want 2 Kadama's Reach and 1 Search for Tomorrow in the deck. Otherwise, we might have a little too much mana and not enough gas to go get. The Hanakami's not really that great. Like, we can sacrifice it to rebuy Kadama's Reaches, I guess, but that's not that inspiring. The rest of these cards are very solid, and I wouldn't mind playing them at all. So let's go ahead and set these aside and lay out white. Oh, and you may have noticed by now that as I lay out these cards, I lay them out by converted casting cost. So if you haven't done this, you don't play a whole lot of sealed deck, it's really good to lay your cards out in this fashion so that you know exactly how many spells you have to cast on any given turn. It's a very good practice to be in. It helps you a lot in figuring out how aggressive or how non-aggressive your deck really is, and exactly where you're missing certain things. Like it looks like we're missing 3-drops quite a bit in any of these decks. So we probably won't play a Dispeller's Capsule main deck. Probably not playing Tarashi's Grasp in the main either as a naturalize. The rest of these cards I'm fine main decking. Kataki's a bear. Like he's fine. As long as we're not really playing any artifacts, it's not a problem. And anybody that is playing artifacts, he just kind of hoses. He's legendary, and we have 2 of him, which is a little bit of a pain. But outside that, I think we're okay. Let's see. Sanctum Gargoyle is not really going to do much for us, outside being kind of a mediocre 2/3 flyer for 4. The Saltfield Recluses are very good, especially since we can tutor them up with the Amro Scout. So that Amro Scout would be really, really good if we had, say, Bound in Silence, 1 or 2 of those. That'd be very good. Again, the primary reason to play white is the Atakar Valkyrie. This card is stone nuts in limited, in any format where you're actually playing it. This card is pretty obscene. So it's really worth, I think it's worth playing white just for her. But the rest of these cards are decent. Like Veteran Armor, he's good. He's a pretty solid defensive guy. Like I said, Kataki's a bear, and as long as we don't draw both of them, we won't want to shoot ourselves. Amro Scout's not terrible. Searches up Saltfield Recluses to buy you time. Hillcomber Giant's okay. It's a 3/3 for 4. It has a mountain walk, so it's got a little bit of evasion sometimes. So we might skip out on the Sanctum Gargoyle if we can. Sin's Enlistment is gross. This card is really, really good, especially with things like Kadama's Reaches in our deck, because basically you're paying 3 to ramp with Kadama's Reach and to hold a card in hand to play Sin's Enlistment the next turn, or the same turn if you're super flooded. The Otherworldly Journeys are fine. They can act as a falter effect, as well as saving your creatures from removal, which is very, very good. So I like the white. Let's see exactly what the white-green deck looks like. And look at this. Look at this guy. White-green. Go figure. Nobody ever would have been able to tell. But I do think that we have the best playables in this color combination. We may not have a lot of removal. Probably not. Definitely not enough removal, I don't think. But the way that it is with the Atakar Valkyrie, I think that's actually enough reason to play the Tooth and Nail, since we have the ramp that we do. So if we do this, land these out here, Trump the Domains is down here, which is also very good. We don't really have a whole lot of token makers, but that's okay. I'm kind of here. And that's not looking terrible. Again, we're a little short on 3s, but we do have triple Kadama's Reach to make sure that we hit our land drops for the Atakar Valkyrie. Let's see, how many playables is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23. That's 24 playables if we don't want to splash any of that red removal at all. If we stick base green, let's see what happens when we lay out that red removal with the deck. So we have a Sudden Shock and a Tribal Flames, which would be good in a 3-color deck. That's about it, though. Not a whole lot more to it, and still don't have that many giants, so we can't really play that stomp on, or the crush underfoot. Do we have any artifacts that we really want to play in this deck? Bone Splitter, that's a very good one. We're definitely playing that guy. Let's see, the Paradise Mantle for more ramp, but I don't think we need that at all. Skyreach Manta would probably be pretty good in this deck, seeing as how we have the Kadama's Reaches and the Search for Tomorrow to tutor up random extra lands for Domain. Same reasoning, the Etched Oracle might be good, but I think we have enough 4-drops already. So, as it stands, I think... Oh, and if we're entertaining at all splashing red, then we're obviously playing Lightning Helix in this deck. And I think that's probably the way to go. So, let's see. Do we really want to splash these red cards? It's definitely not going to wreck our mana base, seeing as how we have a Vivid Crag and 2 Terramorphic Expanses to go along with the Kadama's Reaches and the Search for Tomorrow. But what do we cut? So I don't think we really want the Etched Oracle. The Moss Dog might have to go, as it's the most vanilla 4-drop we have, and we already have a bunch of them. It's either the Moss Dog or the Hillcomber Giant. Hillcomber Giant might be too hard to cast on turn 4. Maybe, maybe not. Should be really good against decks with mountains. But what it comes down to here is that they're the same card, really. It's a 4-mana 3/3, but the Greater Moss Dog can come back every turn after blocking because of Dredge and is a lot easier to cast. So we're going to go ahead and keep the Greater Moss Dog. We probably do want to cut 1 Kadama's Reach, as this is a lot of ramp. So let's go ahead and cut down to 2 of those, and tell me if that's right. I don't know. I didn't play during this block. I didn't play a whole lot of core set limited with Cultivate. So, but I do remember from there that it wasn't always right to play every Cultivate you had. So, let me know what you think in the comments. We probably can cut a Kataki since we have a couple other 2-drops. We don't really need to be playing 2 of those. And if that's the case, what are we looking at now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 18, 19, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So we still got to cut like 5 cards. There are 5 red cards here. The red removal is good. It's good-ish. But do we really need it? That's the real question here. Do we get... It's not... I don't really think it's that greedy to play these red cards. But I also don't think that we really need them. We may not need the Skyreach Manta, so we could splash like Lightning Helix. Cut one of the Otherworldly Journeys for actual removal. And one of the Rift Bolts. Might just cut the Skyreach Mana and the Otherworldly Journey for a Rift Bolt and the Lightning Helix. And then we can bring in more removal if we need it. The Rift Sweeper's okay, not great. It works with our Giant Dust Wasp. Oh, wait, no. This is removal. Duh. Rift Sweeper's removal for other people that have suspend spells. Sorry, I forgot what I did for a second. So we definitely want to keep that in the deck, I think. Yeah. How many creatures do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 16. So we can cut this and one of these, and then cut these and this. Let's see how that works for us. So there's 23 cards. I think we can get away pretty easily with running 17 lanes in this deck, since we do have so much ramp, even with the 9-drop in Tooth and Nail. And again, we're really only playing Tooth and Nail because of Adhikar Valkyrie, so that once we get to 9 mana, we can say, oh, I just win the game. So, let's see. The red spells might not be necessary, but I do think Green-White had our strongest set of playables. But I don't know. We got a little bit of time. Let's go ahead and lay something else out and see what we can do. See what we can find here. What about that potential Goblins deck we had? So let's keep the Green-White together, because this is what I would play at the Grand Prix. This is the deck that I would build for several reasons. Mostly because I like the power level of the cards, but it's not to be understated that knowing how to play your deck, especially in Limited, before you've ever even sleeved it up or thought about it or seen it before, is a pretty valuable ability to have. So I played plenty of Green-White decks in my day, so I know how this one's going to work, and that's pretty nice. Well, let's try to lay out that red-black deck and see what we got. We're still playing Bone Splitter, obviously. That card's dumb. So we can play these. We can bring in that Una, the Face Vaulters. Kind of try to build a little bit of a burn deck here. See if we can't do that. The red spells actually make the Dream Spoiler, which is a lot better. Well, a lot, I say. There are 2 instant speed ones. With 3 if we splash the Lightning Helix, which we definitely can with our fixing. Stinkweed Imp, the Snitch, this. Drag down. We want to be a little domainy anyway for the drag down, which isn't terrible. We have some flyers to go, as well as random little ground creatures. Brute Force will work very well with Blight Speakers and blocking. That seems decent. Let's see, another 4, 5. So the curve in this deck is definitely better. We have plenty of 3s to go along with our 2s. Blind Spot Giant, the Crush Underfoot. That's probably about all we would really look at. We definitely still splash the Lightning Helix in this deck just because we can. The Face Vaulters work very well with the Mogwar Marshals. The War Marshals work well with the Snitch. That's about all the synergy we have for Goblins, though. I mean, I guess we have Warren Weirding. Warren Weirding will let us turn War Marshal into 3 tokens instead of 1. That's pretty good. How many playables is this? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 8, 9, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29. So we got plenty of cards that we could cut. And it's probably like the Crush Underfoot, the Blind Spot Giant, maybe the Hammerheim Deadeye, since we have kind of a lot of removal at this point. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like 6 goblins, that might not really be enough to play the little goblin theme that we have going. 14. It's like, so there's 14 creatures there now. All of these creatures work pretty well with Bone Splitter, as in their early drops, so we can get them online pretty quick and get them attacking. All these creatures also work very well with the Brute Forces, so we can actually use Brute Forces just removal. The Death Denied is pretty good with cards that make extra creatures, like Mog War Marshal. Yeah, I don't think this deck's bad, but I definitely don't think it's as good as Tooth and Nailing every game for Adakar Valkyrie. Definitely has more removal. It'll kill creatures, but the creatures that it has are a lot more mediocre than in the green-white deck. Yeah, it's okay. Not great. Oh, we have a red cap. Ooh, that's a little nicer. We also got this Murderous Red Cap. I don't know. I still think I like the green-white deck. The blue, I think, is still pretty unplayable. I guess we could lay out a red-green deck, but I don't think that would end up being quite as good since the red creatures are pretty bad. Because we wouldn't really be able to play the Tar Pitcher. We could play the Red Cap and the Thundering Giant. And we could play a bit of Domain with the Tribal Flames. But the 3 drops would still be pretty lacking in that, minus the Kadama's Reaches. And we wouldn't be Tooth and Nailing. If we kept Tooth and Nail in the deck, we wouldn't really be Tooth and Nailing for anything more than, I don't know, like Hammerheim Deadeye to kill a creature and Thundering Giant. And that just doesn't sound nearly as exciting. I'd rather stick with the white. It seems more resilient. It's got a good opening curve with a lot of 2s and tons of ramp to get us going, like I said earlier, bigger, faster than our opponents. We also got some sweet sideboard options in white, like the extra Kataki, the Hillcomber Giant, our Dispeller's Capsule for random swords that we might encounter. Yeah, I think that's probably where I'd start. With that green-white deck, we have plenty of fixing, so we can splash the Lightning Helix for sure in that deck. With 3 sources, we don't really need anything else. Yeah. Oh, and one of those Rift Bolts. Again, 3 sources, we don't really need much else because we'll have a mountain in here to fetch with the Terramorphic Expanses. So we'd have 4 sources of red in that green-white deck. Because we can lay that out one more time before we go. Remind you guys of what I was looking at. So we got our search. Always a 1. Some solid 2 drops. I do like the number of 2 drops in this deck. You will have them most games, and that is very, very good. 6 and 6. Kind of a 5 drop. And our square 4 drops. So we're missing a little at 3, but not terribly much, which is fine. And what we got? We got 1 Rift Bolt that we want to play. I think Rift Bolt's probably the best of those red spells that we can play. And then again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, 22. And then we had the Bone Splitter. It's going to make 23. With plenty of creatures, so the Tooth and Nail is actually really a creature in this deck. So 15 total creatures, which is pretty sweet. Tromp the Domains with with 1 card that makes tokens, and then 1 card that fetches a couple of our other creatures. I think it's pretty good. Oh, and then Sin's Enlistment. Sin's Enlistment, Tromp the Domains is pretty sweet. So here we would definitely be playing 1 more mountain to go with these. I might also play like 1 swamp for the Tromp the Domains. I don't think I'd play an island. That seems like a bit too much of a stretch with all these double green and double white cards that we have. But I do think that I would play 1 swamp in this deck for a +4/+4 on Tromp the Domains. Though +3/+3 is probably good enough, even at 6 mana instead of 5 for Overrun. But yeah, this deck looks pretty sweet. I'd be pretty happy to play it day 1 of the Grand Prix. Yeah. So make sure to let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah, hi. Make sure to let me know what you think in the comments. If you think I did something wrong, if you think I underevaluated something, if you think I overestimated something, make sure to let me know. Thanks for watching. Come back soon. We'll always have plenty of content for you here from the Asylum. Thanks.